Okay, that's one thing. And then the thing that you're going to discuss are pets. Pets you've had, pets you have, why you don't have pets. Okay? Ready?
Yes.
And then after we discuss, we'll come back to the tables, and then Grant's going to help me do something else. Braden.
I'm recording today.
Come on, 2 butterflies. This is Braden.
Yeah, Brayden.
Bella, she's not here. Tatum, Greta.
Where's she at? Woo! Focus. No, thank you.
Greta and Braden, you're gonna go talk about pets and write pets. Get those names on it. Brianna
I have 2.
and Jack.
Yeah, Jack. Up, Brianna. Jack.
Brianna and Jack, everyone.
Nobody liked you.
I did. It's 2. One from last week too. Okay. So you're writing the person you met last week and the person you're talking to tonight.
My dad's saxophone. Write down the facts.
Was our walking meditation for you today?
2 weeks.
Okay. And most of us just ran around and played. Didn't get a lot out of it. And I didn't know if I would either. You know?
Hey.
Okay, that's one change. So on our walk over to the park, Grant and Ava and the group of kids that I was walking with told me about someone who came and spoke at an elementary school when they were at Swanson.
Yeah, I did this one.
Oh, okay, but you knew about it.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a mantra that this gal, what was she, Miss Nebraska, did she say, or something, came and talked to them about that they liked, that helped quiet them or calm them. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Sure.
Or explain it, and then I'll explain what I did.
So the thing was, it was just like you'd tap all your 4 fingers to your thumb, and it was just like you'd say, peace begins with me, for every time you would like touch your finger to your thumb. And it was just to help you calm down or like meditate.
Yeah. So we tried it while we walked, and we figured out that if you do it a little more slowly, it's obviously more calming. Peace begins with me. And I thought that was really cool. And that day had been a really horrible day for me at work. I usually get along with everybody and don't have issues, but this one lady that I work with was super negative and just really upset me, and I couldn't let go of it. And so I tried that, and I told these guys, that's really cool, I like it. And I kept using it that week. I'd see her and be like, "Arr," and then I just say to myself, peace begins with me. And I liked that as I did that with my fingers, it kind of felt like it was bringing my attention in and helping me calm down. And so then the next week I thought, well, now I need to kind of bring that peace and put it back out so that the gal that I'm angry with can receive it instead of me just calming down. And so then I reversed it and did it, peace begins with me, and tried to imagine it going out. So anyway, let's just try that for a few minutes, or not even a few, 1 or 2 times. Slowly, you can just do one hand, you can do both hands. Peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. Peace begins with. It's something you could do at school when you're feeling nervous, when you're feeling angry, embarrassed, whatever. Nobody would even know you're doing it. You could tap your leg. I thought it was cool. So thanks for sharing it. It helped me.
Cool.
Okay, we need a few readers. Anybody want to read? All right, come on up here, Weston.
Yo, listen.
Tonight we are switching from Affirmation 11, and we're talking about Affirmation 1, which we'll be doing for a few weeks. So, if you guys don't stop talking at that table, we will switch you up. So what does Affirmation 1 say? Right there.
Walking fully in the path of Jesus without denying the legitimacy of other paths that God may provide for humanity.
Okay, anybody got a thought on what that means? Walking fully in the path of Jesus. What is that? The right way. We'll get to that tonight. That's the way we are walking, right?
Yeah.
Because, what?
What?
Because,
I don't know.
well, what was Jesus important in the church?
Yeah.
Jack got a little too creative there. How is Jesus important in the church? What? Yeah.
He's there to support us.
There
Yeah.
to support. Well, Jesus started the church, basically.
Yeah, he is
And,
the church.
and as the United Church of Christ would say, Jesus is the ultimate leader of the church as well,
He is the
even now. So, okay, so if we're walking fully in the path of Jesus, what are we also supposed to do?
follow is
Look at Affirmation 1, read it to yourself.
not
Walking fully in the path of Jesus, but also,
not denying the
Legitimacy
of other paths that God made.
and what does that mean, not denying the legitimacy of other, yes?
So like accepting that other people can have thoughts about different gods and stuff.
Okay,
Beliefs.
yeah. So other religions, does anybody know other religions? Yes? Judaism, right? Yeah. Hinduism? Buddhism?
Islam.
Islam?
Judaism.
Is that what you were gonna say? Yeah. So, this is a fairly controversial affirmation. I think it's even more controversial for a lot of people that would consider themselves Christian than the one that talks about including all people. Because this one, for years, Christianity claimed that it's the only way to God, right? There's a statement in the Bible that says, that all salvation is brought through Jesus. And so a lot of Christians, most Christians, believe that Jesus is the only way to God. It's not that funny. Okay, you go right here. Andy, over there. You don't have to film where they're going to sit. These are going to be weird videos. Sorry out there. Just stay tuned for the information, okay? So for years, and still, most Christians would say that Jesus is the only way to God. So this is a very different kind of approach to say, well, we believe that, we're on the path to God through Jesus, but we also believe that there's many other paths to God. If you flip the paper over, this is Mount Monadnock. Monadnock, it's in New Hampshire. It's the second most climbed mountain in the world, one of my favorites.
Is New Hampshire on the East Coast?
New Hampshire is on the East Coast, yes.
Green.
Now, on this you see the red pin. The red pin, that's very good, I like that.
Thank you.
That signifies the peak of Mount Monadnock. And then you see all these white lines
Are those trails?
going for the peak. Those are trails.
Could you go biking on the
So, some of them you can bike for a little bit, but no, it's a rock mountain. So, the idea here, it's called an analogy, is that people may be on these different parts of the trail, but they're all kind of going to the same place, right? They're going to the top of the mountain.
That's
So
cool.
they're all connected?
And so the idea is that every religion is really pointing toward what we would consider to be God. And quite possibly and probably the same God. So people have been, arguing for generations over whether, they worship the real God or they worship the real God. But this affirmation would say that they're all legitimate. So, what do you guys think about that?
So all of them are connecting to each other? They're all going
At
to
the top.
So all the
Not necessarily, paths sometimes cross. I think with the tri-faith, our paths are kind of crossing.
so all of the trails are different religions.
That's the analogy.
So they all move forward together, and then sometimes they meet these days.
But mostly it's like you pick a trail, right? You're going up. And are you guys working on this? What are you doing?
Yeah, Tolly.
You sure? So when you're climbing a mountain, you pick a trail to go up that you want to go up, and you really don't see the other trails, So you have no idea what they're doing, and there's no idea how that trail's getting up there. And when you get to the top, maybe you're coming up the one trail and somebody's coming right up the other side, and you're like, hey, whoa, we're both here.
Yay.
But we went very different ways.
Oh, and some can be harder and some can be easier.
I suppose. We need another reader.
Me.
All right.
Let's go.
Read that, Father Martin.
Oh, okay.
Father Martin.
Father Martin asserts that the major world religions can be likened to hikers climbing up different sides of a mountain. Each tradition has discovered a unique route for reaching the top. While they are climbing the mountain, the traditions cannot necessarily see each other. Individuals within the climbing parties may not even seem aware that others are ascending the mountain. They think they are alone and are making their ascent. Yet when they reach the top, the climbers are surprised to find one another. Each party has reached the same goal by a different route.
Nice job. So, do you guys agree with that, or do you disagree with some of that?
I agree with it. This is kind of what I was saying before. Like they all beat up.
So what about the legitimacy, that the fact that, come on you guys, the idea that every religion is legitimate. Are there exceptions to that? Are there some religions that you wouldn't consider legitimate? No? Well, there probably are. Some just get made up, for individuals' glory or something like that, or for fame or something, or they make weird rules and make people drink weird Kool-Aids and stuff like that. And so I don't think every single religion is legitimate, but I think the major ones are. And I think the idea is that we're open to that. We're open to say, hey, your religion's as legitimate as mine. And because ultimately, we're not 100% on everything that we believe, right? There's this little grain of, well, it's possible. There's a couple passages in the Bible. One is Jesus talking about that he's the good shepherd and the sheep are people, right? So he calls himself the good shepherd because he takes care of the sheep and doesn't let the wolves in and stuff like that. And in John 10, he says, I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. So that kind of says that, people's understanding was that God had one chosen people, right? And that's who Jesus was talking to. And he says, I have these other sheep in a different pen somewhere else, which would have been a really new concept that, wait, what? We're not the only ones? We're not the only chosen people? And Jesus says, no, and I gotta go get them, and then they'll all be one together. So that would be an argument for that one religion, which was Judaism at the time, wasn't the only one. And in Revelation's kind of a book, it's a strange book. It's a vision from the Apostle John. And he had this vision after I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. So that would suggest that everybody, you know, is going to be with God according to that vision, not just the chosen people, not just a few. What do you think about that? All right. Is that hard to comprehend? That I don't think it is in this day and age. I think it's a lot easier to comprehend for you guys now, but to comprehend, like you know, you think about heaven sometimes, and I don't know if our ideas are exactly right on that, but you think of who's going to heaven, you know, and a lot of times we think our friends are, and all the good people, and everybody we get along with. And I've made the argument before that you might not like everybody that's going to heaven with you, if that's the way things work. But, yeah.
Oh, I just have to think, I don't know if it's really related, but like, if, do like a lot of people not understand that there's like multiple paths to like the same destination? Because like I feel like a lot of people are really stuck up on their idea and think that's really right, and they don't know that like maybe there's others things too.
Yeah, I think there's a sense that when you think you're right, you think somebody else is wrong, you know? Like, how can they both be right? How can you have these very different ideas and they're both right, you know? So I think people sort of defend their, you know, where they're at, defend their territory. And, you know, like I said before, Christianity has been built on the idea that it's the only way to God. You know, I mean, they've said that. And they still say that, so.
That's going back to last week when we were talking about why you choose a church or why you would become a member, you know, that's something that you would want to look at and see what their church believes. That does make Countryside unique compared to other Christian churches, I think.
Yeah, and like we've had, the imam has preached a sermon in our church, and Rabbi Stoller has as well. And like lots of churches, that would never, ever, ever happen. So, yeah.
If anybody has read the book Life of Pi, the character Pi, he learns this message, and he is originally following the path of Buddhism, I think. And then he joins a Christian church, and he joins the mosque, and he's like practicing 3 different religions because he thinks all 3 of them are the right way.
So it takes the best of all of them.
Yeah. I kind of hope we do that when we move to the tri-faith. I hope there's a Muslim call to prayer, and we hear it, and then we can pray in that way, or you know, some of the services that Temple Israel does. I think that would be really awesome to kind of to practice all 3 religions in the same, you know, not to blend them, but to practice the different emphasis from each one. Anybody else have a thought?
To add on to what you said, so if you've ever been to like a picnic or any tri-faith event, I've been over, and especially if it's hosted at AMI, they will have call to prayer often while you're there, and you don't have, you know, nothing has to stop in the room you're in, but you hear that in the background, and it's really cool, just to be a part of it in that way.
But then the Muslim men run off to a room, and then everybody else is just kind of like, oh, they're gone.
Bye-bye.
And they come back, I mean, and they're not, you know, they're not trying to be rude, but I wonder how we can eventually get to the point where maybe we can pray at that same time too, you know? I don't know. And do the women go to a different place?
Times I've been there, it's been with families, and people haven't left.
Oh, really?
That one picnic they did, I guess, yeah.
I was thinking of the groundbreaking, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they planned this event, a groundbreaking for their building, and then call to prayer comes, and they all go into this tent. So, interesting. Well, here's a video from the executive director of the Tri-Faith, actually.
Can you show your Snapchat or something? Can you show your Snapchat?
Did,
Oh, did I close it?
oh, you closed it, okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. We'll find it real fast.
Jake, want me to put video?
I'm confiscating this.
Check, give me the phone. I want my
He was
phone.
showing me.
I want a bag.
I'm security. Jake, give it to me. I'm security.
Home security.
Why do people have such difficulty embracing others who are religiously different than themselves? It turns out that there's some very good reasons. Neurobiological ones, which, if we understand them, we can actually overcome. I've spent years working to try to advance understanding between people of different faiths. Increasingly so, I've become convinced through engaging the insights of neuroscience that the solutions to our intergroup tensions lie within ourselves. Much of what we do for everything in our lives is driven by unconscious cognitive processes that are largely situated in our lower brain. In essence, we're on autopilot most of the time and protect and fiercely reinforce identities that we hold, including religious ones. Most of us falsely assume that our actions and those of others are the result of higher order rational thought processes. They're not. We're emotive creatures. In really creative and dumbfounding ways, we all reject rational information or facts in order to reinforce what we at first feel. We form early on and stick with understandings of identity in groups and out groups. If, for example, we want to change how someone who is not a Muslim thinks and feels about Muslims, we have to do more than just give them information and facts. Don't get me wrong, facts are important. It's just that they can only come into play when a person is emotionally ready to receive and process them, and we have to create the right conditions for that. We depend on those automatic neurological systems for survival. This means that our tendencies to stereotyping, prejudice, and dehumanization are generated often subconsciously so, by way of long-held norms and quick decision-making systems. Knowing that we're wired this way should allow us to have empathy for one another and understand any initial resistance to the other. Good news is that research is showing that our brains are also highly malleable. This means we can actually rewire some of the automatic processes and negative tendencies within ourselves simply by creating opportunities for positive emotional connections with persons different than ourselves. One of the best antidotes to religious animosity is creating positive examples that go counter to our built-in stereotypes. How do we create change that we want to see in society? Well, we can create more positive social norms that affect how everyone else might be able to see the religious other through offering our own positive examples. This, in part, is what is behind the Tri-Faith Initiative. We're working to have 3 Abrahamic congregations, a Jewish synagogue, a Christian church, and a Muslim mosque, live together on one campus and be very intentional about creating community together, even while we each learn about and protect the integrity of our respective traditions. In our togetherness, we're coming to see that people of other faiths not only have shared histories and views of God, but also, more fundamentally, they can share similar values, concerns, hopes, and dreams in life. In short, we're beginning to see each other as fundamentally human and truly of sacred worth, regardless of our inherited or adapted traditions. Our invitation to you is to consider sharing a meal, participating in an event or cause, or doing something together with someone religiously different than yourself. Get to know them and learn to love them. You may just be surprised about what you learn about yourself and develop a richer understanding of your own tradition in the process.
What does it mean to be fun and gently human?
What does it mean to be fundamentally human?
No, funny. It said funny gently.
Fun and gentleman?
Yeah. We will all be funny gently humans.
Fundamentally.
Oh, I heard fun and gently. No, I fun and gently.
I don't know what fundamentally
I don't know.
human is.
That's what I was asking. Fungus.
What was what do you think kind of the main idea of that neuroscience talk was? Yeah.
Just by making emotional connections to people of other religions, and the other religions itself can make you more open to learning facts about the other religions.
Okay, I thought you talked a lot about emotional level. Yeah, that it's not just what you think, and it's not just facts, but emotion. And that's what holds people on to their religion that they grew up with, because it feels like home, and it has this nostalgia, you know. Like, you always kind of you want it to be like it was, and that's part of why it's so hard to accept another religion, but also the emotion of reaching out. So what's the best way to find out about another religion?
Asking
Asking who?
others.
What others?
You.
No.
Church leaders.
Religion for like a week or so.
Like,
figure out where the religion is.
Yeah, but like you could try to
go to a temple or a mosque or something like that?
Yeah.
All right. What's another great way to learn about another religion?
Ask someone who's in that religion.
That's a good one.
Asking others.
Yeah.
Maybe if you get like invited to like a bar mitzvah, then you can like.
Yeah, has anybody gone to a bar mitzvah?
That was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
You learn a lot there.
Sure.
Yeah?
What?
Oh,
Saying they've been.
yes. You can put your hands down now. I think one of the best ways to learn about another religion is become friends with a person of another religion. You know, then you're really interested because you're friends, and then they'll share with you about their religion. And that's been the experience for me. I know, like, when I go to the Tri-Faith picnic, or we've done some Tri-Faith youth events, I know, like, those are so powerful for me to recognize this person in a different way than I wouldn't have known if I didn't be friends with them, you know? Because you go into meeting somebody kind of with what you think about them already rolling on in your mind, and it's not really based on anything. And then you meet them and talk to them and hear their story. I mean, when you hear their story, I think it's really a really good connection, and you can really understand a lot about someone by hearing their story. And we've been talking in our Tri-Faith clergy meetings, which are the pastors and rabbis and imams, and what makes the Tri-Faith unique. You know, there's a lot of interfaith educational programs where people of different religions come and talk about some things. And what I think makes the Tri-Faith unique is that we're promoting friendships, relationships, long-term relationships between the three congregations, you know. I don't know that anybody's doing that. So it's not just an educational exercise, it's not just a religious exercise, but it's a relational exercise.
Is the Tri-Faith group that is making the big church?
They're the people building the new church, yeah.
Well, we're building the new
Well,
church. Countryside is
their
building the
campus,
church.
On that campus.
On that campus. Yeah.
Oh, is the
So it'll still be Countryside Church there,
you know the Jewish church right next to it? Is that part of Tri-Faith?
yes.
Temple Israel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you guys want to go on a tour of AMI or Temple
Do we
Israel?
get to get out of here? We get to take a bus?
Do not say the word lock-in
This
again.
guy. Let him fly.
Yeah, everybody want Hugo in my.
Well, we'll arrange a tour in the next couple weeks.
Hugo.
To go see
If
those
you didn't know,
buildings.
Hugo underscore the house.
Any other thoughts about this?
You broke it.
I stole your phone in Starburst.
Yeah, I know.
All right, we're ending a little early, which means don't go down the hall to the classrooms and bug other people. Okay?
Bye, guys.
Have a good night.
Goodbye. See you guys next
Next time, Weston will be filming.
Okay, bye.
Can I